I'm very sorry, sir. Yeah. What about him?
He
What's his pastime with Prabhupada and how he treated with Prabhupada, how he came into touch and then he is making temples, right? What is it? Anything about it? You can elaborate, yeah.
well, I remember from in 19 uh, what 1975 or six. I remember seeing him at the San Francisco Rath Theatre. He just joined, the people joined, and he joined. But at that time, he
Okay.
didn't have any particular amount of money. He got that later on,
Acha.
inherited. But the main thing is he talk about the GBC. He's in a homosexual relationship with Bhavananda, who is one of the people that poisoned Prabhupada.
He had a homosexual relationship.
Still does. That the
Prabhu then,
whole TVOP project is based on homosexuality.
acha. So Prabhu, these all these buildings which he's making, like new devotees, those who are like 2 3 years old, they are showing how Henry Ford came into touch with Krishna consciousness, how this big billionaire he came into touch and he's doing it for Krishna.
Who is doing?
I mean, he's building temples, right? He's showing it that he's building temples for Prabhupada, right?
Ambarish?
Yeah, yeah, bro.
No, he's not really building. He's coming up with the money. He's come up with millions of dollars. Much of it was stolen and much of it was wasted.
And it's all based on homosexuality, right? The exact word you're saying,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
latest TV. Acha.
Him and Bhavananda. Bhavananda was a big time homosexual. Did you ever hear of the artist Andy Warhol?
No, no, no. Can you
He was
elaborate
a
more? I've not
he
heard
was a
about
New
him.
York artist. Bhavananda used to be involved with him, and he was bisexual, homosexual.
Acha. Okay.
And when
Got
Bhavananda
it.
was the guru for Australia,
Acha.
Govinda's restaurant, the biggest Govinda's restaurant that was there in Australia, was a complete homosexual hangout club.
Acha, okay.
And so
Yeah.
he got involved with Ambarish. In Los Angeles, there was a group of homosexual sannyasis, and
So,
they have rented an apartment, and they used to have those apartments to have their homosexual activity in.
but Prabhu Amrish Das or Amrish Prabhu, he has his own wife, right? Who's an Indian. Prabhupada got that wedding done, no?
I
Or
don't think
later
so.
he
I
got
think
married.
he much later, much later. It's
Acha,
just
much later.
that a lot of American movie stars that were famous men and the women were crazy about them and thought they were wonderful, but they were homosexuals. So
Prabhu, about
they
Hollywood
got
stars,
married. They got married.
it's not about Hollywood stars, Prabhu, doing it, but it's about Amrish Das, who's like met Prabhupada. I mean, we're talking about Prabhupada. Let's not keep Hollywood stars, but yeah, he met Prabhupada, and there are quotes coming on online, right? People are
He
getting
met
inspired.
Prabhupada maybe 2 years before Prabhupada was poisoned.
Acha. Okay.
Remember, Prabhupada was finished off. They were poisoning him in 1976, 1975, 1976, or no, or 1976 and 77, for sure. They were poisoning him. And so Ambarish didn't get involved until around 1975.
Acha.
And
Got it.
he didn't have any association with Prabhupada at that time.
Okay.
So what we need to do is to bring the movement back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was not a criminal. He was not a homosexual. He was a pure devotee. He is the
Prabhu is a pure
transparent
devotee.
via medium. Krishna and Prabhupada are on the same platform. I'm not saying that Prabhupada is Krishna in that sense, but if you have Krishna and his pure devote, like Arjuna and Krishna, are on the same platform. Arjuna is a jiva, and Krishna is God. But when they appear like equals together. Like in Bhadranath, there's the Narayan Rishi, in Bhadranath temple. One is Krishna, one is Arjuna, the two yogis.
Acha, which one is it, Prabhu? Can you just elaborate? I'll write this down.
Narayan Rishi in Bhadranath, you've heard?
Narayan Rishi in Badrinath, okay.
Yeah.
Narayan Rishi.
It's Krishna Arjuna in the pastimes of an incarnation of like yogis.
They're still there?
The demigods didn't know it was Krishna and Arjuna. They thought it was just two powerful yogis. So
They're
they
still
sent
there?
down. Huh?
Are they still living?
Narayan? Well, they're eternal, of course.
Eternal, but are they in their physical form? Like Krishna came
Are
in
they
physical
still
form?
in Bhadranath? They have murtis there. Physically, they're not there.
Acha, acha. So this Narnarayan, what you're saying about Narnarayan Rishi in Badrinath, he was Krishna and who was Arjuna, bro?
Well, Narayan means Krishna, right? Narayan is Vishnu, Krishna. Nara means, and Nara means what?
Nara means Narayan, which is
Nara,
Krishna.
Nara, just Nara.
Nara, I don't know, bro. Exact
Nara means
male.
human being.
But I means human being, male specifically. Nara is
Nara
male,
means
right?
human being, yeah. So
Male
Narayan means basically Krishna and Arjuna, the human being and Vishnu or Krishna.
So, Prabhu, you want to say that this Narayan Rishi was both Arjuna and Krishna in one soul?
No, two.
Acha, two names are there. This is
two Swarups. They had individual bodies.
Acha, good, great. Until what time was it?
But they looked like they looked identical. So
until what time was it?
Realize. Huh?
Until what time was it, bro? I mean, when they died?
I don't remember exactly the yuga.
That's interesting, bro. We can make a trip to Badrinath. We all can make a trip to Badrinath, guys. And then we can go there, chant, and then just see the pastimes. Great.
I went in 1986, I went to Hardwar to the Kumbh Mela.
Achha,
and then we drove up there in a taxi.
No need of a taxi in India, bro. I'm there. I'm your taxi driver now. Anytime coming to India, I'm your taxi driver, bro.
So we will go to Badrinath. It's very close to where Lord Shiva is, with the Ganges coming from his head. It's at the top of the Ganges.
Haribo, Jai.
When I was there, there's a special moment when the drops of Dhanvantari spilled a drop of nectar into the Ganges. That moment, the Ganges went from a dynamic river into foaming river. Literally, you can see the difference.
Achha.
So anyhow, the main thing is we need to, I will not be satisfied until ISKCON is fully reinstated with Prabhupada at the center, elected GBC, and individual incorporated temples. And how do we do that? We expose the crimes of the people who stole it from Prabhupada as having stolen it from Prabhupada. At some point, no matter what sort of disciples are floating around, they will say, we don't want to follow people that murdered the founder Acharya of ISKCON. I'm a member of ISKCON and I'm going to worship people that poison him?
Haribol, we have Vinayak Prabhu present, Prabhu. Haribol, Danda Pranam, Haribol. Jai. Vinayak Prabhu from Japan is there. Haribol, you can hear us?
So that's the trick. The trick. The difficulty is realizing, so now what about the men and women in the GBC? You see, they're just people. They came, they became disciples of Prabhupada, etc., etc., etc. They served Prabhupada to the best of their capacity, etc. It's up to them to recognize whether they want to be GBC or simply Prabhupada disciple. But we're going to expose to GBC. No names or few names, but we're not here to name names. We're here to expose the organization GBC as having rebelled against Prabhupada and established themselves as an absolute organization when all they were was supposed to be elected for 3-year terms.
Haribo. Yes.
It's quite a dramatic difference, isn't it?
Yes, Prabhu.
So we say 3-year terms. And then people say, oh, the Prabhupada didn't want to, Prabhupada said that is it. What do you want? And the thing is, how are we going, how do you think the big fat, bloated, cancerous GBC is going to last for 500 years or 5,000 years? What to speak of 10,000 years? It simply can't last more than a few more years right now on Earth. They're in trouble with themselves.
Exactly.
They're getting a lot. Why are they doing so much exciting stuff in Mayapur to distract from the fact that they're practically finished?
Exactly.
So we don't have to worry about them. We don't have to hold their hand or take their temperature or give a thermometer in their mouth. We just let them die their own death, but we expose them for what they have done. That's it. Are you up to that idea? We find out the crimes, we expose them.
Of course.
The first crime is that they refuse to accept being elected.
If Prabhu, your point, if 40% or maybe 45% of people within ISKCON, those are frustrated, they get to know that we are doing the real thing and then they make a movement against ISKCON, they're gone.
Well,
right?
we're not just doing the right thing. We want the ISKCON temple to no longer have ISKCON gurus in it.
Yeah, Prabhu.
We want the temples back as Prabhupada's temples, not create a new temple to counteract their temple. That's been done a million times. I've done it. I had 2 temples in Los Angeles. They weren't named ISKCON, but I had devotees there. We were preaching exactly what we're preaching here. It didn't have any effect on the main temple. Now It's time to expose the GBC as criminals. Do you think that's fair? Is that fair enough?
It's fair enough, Prabhu. It's 210% correct, which you say. Point blank on target, Prabhu. You are always correct. How can I
hope.
Comment or say something? Yeah.
Yes. So Rupa Manjari Prabhu, are you there?
Yeah.
Well, why not tell Mohit what Bhagavan said to you?
Oh, I questioned him about the direction of management because he was a signer on it. And I asked him why wasn't it followed, and he said we ignored it.
And what did they ignore? They ignored the words of Krishna's confidential associate.
Pure devotee. They're ignoring a pure devotee. What are they doing?
Yes.
They're indirectly offending Prabhupada.
That's what we are going to publicize. They ignored it. And when they say that they ignored Prabhupada, so if somebody takes a guru now, aren't they supposed to follow the instructions of that guru in ISKCON?
Yeah, Prabhu. They're meant to.
Why should they?
Because you made someone a guru. If you made someone
but Prabhupada is a guru. They disobeyed Prabhupada. So why shouldn't their disciple disobey them?
They can do it, Prabhu, but most of the cases which I have seen, they're like very much conscious about their gurus, right?
Because
wherever
they don't know what
India,
happened.
Because wherever I go in India, they say like this, that you're offending, you're doing guru aparadh, you're doing this and that.
Okay, well then ask them, how do they become guru? How did Prabhupada make them gurus?
I don't know, Prabhu, but that brainwashing
you have to
is
ask
being
these
done.
people that say I'm offending guru. Say I'm not offending guru. Prabhupada is guru. How I'm offending somebody who's appointed by an unelected body that was meant to be elected? They're criminals. The guru is not a real guru. He's being put forward as a guru by a group of people that are simply making money off of you.
They don't believe it, Prabhu, because they've been brainwashed, and then they say this that GBC is correct. GBC is being guided by
So,
Prabhupada.
so the
Because
GBC was correct in disobeying Prabhupada and ignoring his orders?
Prabhu, this no, they think that Prabhupada orders was that only. These guys, innocent guys, don't know what was the order of Prabhupada.
That's why we have to make a whole website and a whole
Exactly.
on the internet to expose them to everybody. You've heard of Satya Sai Baba?
Yeah, bro. Indian
You know what
guru,
happened
right?
when they found out, his disciples found out, his followers found out that he was a pedophile?
Okay. I don't
3
know what
million of
happened.
his followers left.
Acha.
So that's what we're looking for. We're saying these guys are
He-
pedophiles, which many of them were.
Hmm.
We expect the followers of these people to leave. Why will they stay with a pedophile that's announced and is clearly exposed? If it's secret, they can go along with it. If it's exposed, why would they?
Yes, Hargul, correct.
So we're trying to create the same effect. It may seem difficult right now, but all we have to do is start making a gigantic list of what they did. That wouldn't have
correct.
happened if they had obeyed Prabhupada. If they had been
Exactly.
elected, we would have had hundreds of thousands of temples by now.
Hari bol. Yeah. I
They
guess
just
Vinayak
wanted-
Prabhu can say something if he wants to. He's come so
Sure,
late.
sure. I'm sorry. I was
No,
trying
Prabhu,
to
I'm sorry.
establish
Yeah, I
a
Vinayak
just
Prabhu,
want
point
to
Hari
say
bol.
that
because we're at a critical time in our
Krishna.
preaching.
Danvat
So
pranam
Vinayak,
Prabhu.
yes.
Prabhu.
Ramachandra, take charge, please. You're in charge.
Take charge, please, Prabhu, because these talks between me and Narayan Prabhu can go for ages and ages. We won't stop. So
Well, but-
it's like that for
but-
me.
Excellent. So I was just
Well, were
listening.
you convinced by what the conversation?
Of course, Prabhu. Of course. Why not? It's purely
Okay.
coming from your heart, and Prabhupada is guiding you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Humble obeisances to you, Prabhu.
Okay. So now
course.
let's get Vinayak involved. Let's get Ramachandra back involved.
Yes,
And
yes,
Rupa
yes.
Manjari.
Okay, so we
Yes.
got about 8 minutes. So Vinayak Prabhu, welcome Prabhu. I hope Japan is
Hare Krishna.
treating you well.
Yeah, so just
Hari bol.
one thing I want to say that we may discuss this in temples, but as soon as you start this topic, people leave the conversation and they would label you as kind of Ritvik or a Guru Apradhi. And then, conversation goes nowhere and you are just banned from temple. And that happened to thousands of devotees earlier also who tried to raise these issues. So this is not a solution that we can just
So can you bring your phone more
temple.
closer?
I couldn't
Can you
understand
bring-
what he said. It
Can you
sounded
bring
very
your phone
important.
more closer, Haribol, please?
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me now properly?
Yes,
Better.
yes. Now, it's clear.
Ramachandra,
Yeah.
can you also translate?
Okay,
Vinayak
I'm
Prabhu, your
saying-
phone was not clear when you were speaking, so I didn't
Okay,
quite get
I'll
that.
speak again. So yeah, whenever we try to discuss these issues and in these places, so they just label you something like iconoclast or Ritvik and Guru Apradhis, and they
Still
would
not
just
clear,
not
Prabhu.
listen.
It's still not. Vinayak,
Rejoin again, Prabhu, and then increase your volume full.
yeah, your volume is very low, and the microphone is not very good quality, it seems.
What I can hear is saying that, Prabhu, if we follow these and then they label you, he's saying that they label you as a brand ambassador or some brand name for Ritviks and something like that. He's saying he's talking about labeling. Yeah.
Exactly. Like they would label you and they would not listen to you.
Your voice is very low, Prabhu. Cannot hear. Vinayak.
Haribol, rejoin again.
Now you can hear.
Now I can hear. Yes, now it's better. What did you do?
So yeah, so they would just label you with some tag that you are like Apradhi or Ritvik or these kind of things, and they won't listen you anymore. They won't listen any rational arguments that you put, and they would just spread the word in all the groups, all the congregation, that this guy is going to do some Guru Aparadha and don't listen to him. So that's what happens, and that's what happened with
Correct.
you also,
Superb.
Ramchandra Prabhu.
That happens everywhere, Prabhu. That's politics.
So
That's
this is not
material
a
politics.
solution that we just go to any congregation and blast about these issues
Oh,
and
no,
just
that's not how we do it. We don't, that would be very offensive, in fact. Now, what we need to do is to compile a gigantic list of all the crimes committed by the GBC and then publicize it on the internet. We don't have to talk to people. We don't have to try to convince them that what they believe is not worth believing. When the people feel cheated, they will say, I was cheated. They won't, if I say you're being cheated, they'll attack me. But if they find out that they were cheated, they will say, I don't want to be cheated anymore.
Right.
The whole goal is to get people to not want to be cheated anymore. Not that we're going to attack the status quo, attack the temples, attack the GBC. We're not attacking anybody. We're just exposing. Supposing you have a sister or daughter of something, and some guy wants to marry your daughter. You find out that he's a criminal, but everybody wants to say nice things about him, and your family, their family wants to say nice things about him. Don't you have to then get a whole record, his record of criminality, to prove that he is a criminal? And when it turns out he's a criminal, then your daughter or your wife, your sister or whatever, will say, no, I don't want to marry that guy. But if you just start saying bad things about him, they're going to protect him because they think he's nice. Vinayak, does that make any sense? Or could you understand what I said?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it will make more sense, like if more disciples of Prabhupada like yourself can come forward to share their opinions on these matters, because it will be easier for people to grasp the things from
Well, we're
Prabhupada's
working on
direct
it.
disciples.
But Vinayak Prabhu, you're a disciple of Prabhupada.
Yeah, they don't accept that unless they are instructed by someone senior like yourself or your god brothers of that time.
Well, you can say I'm a disciple of Prabhupada. He's a pure devotee. I follow him. I don't read anybody else's books. I read his books. I don't listen to any kirtan. I listen to his kirtan. I don't listen to anybody's lectures. I listen to his lectures. Are they going to say you're wrong? How can you be wrong if you are listening to Prabhupada's recordings? And if you follow Prabhupada's instructions? What's the bad part?
You
Bad
make
part
it
is
sound,
nothing.
you make it sound very simple.
Yeah, Prabhu. It's simple.
Yeah,
Krishna
it's
Well, it
consciousness
is
simple
is
in
very
the
simple.
meeting, but difficult in the actual conversation when we
Well,
have this.
only if you're attached to those people emotionally on the horizontal level. But if you're attached to Prabhupada's lotus feet, if people say, well, who do you worship? Prabhupada, don't you? Well, what do you mean? No, I'm my guru. I said, yeah, but doesn't your guru worship Prabhupada? Well, he has a guru. Well, doesn't that guru worship Prabhupada? Doesn't somebody somewhere worship Prabhupada? Well, of course they do. Otherwise, how they can become guru? Okay, and I'm worshiping Prabhupada. What's your problem? Why should I worship your guru? That's your choice. That's your decision that you made for your life. But why should I follow your decision? Why should I follow what you think is right?
Your explanation is impeccable. So you just in few minutes defeated the whole guru system.
Yeah.
Logic and reason and conclusion and siddhanta.
And there's one other ingredient.
Common sense.
Yeah, common sense. All this other stuff is, all this guru talk is completely devoid of common sense. What do I say? Supposing you're going to inherit some money from a rich grandfather or uncle or someone, and you hear the sort of garbage that's coming from these guys, guru this, guru that. you're going to get cheated out of your inheritance. What
Yeah.
do you think to say? No, I want to hear from the lawyer or the judge. I want to hear the common sense, the truth. I want to know what is true, not what people, blah, 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 blah. Somebody says like that, and now everybody will turn against you if you go along with something other than this, blah, blah, blah. No, you say, use common sense. How are we going to, and also the biggest thing is, with any system of guru, how is that going to go on for 10,000 years? Or do you even care? If you don't care, then as far as I'm concerned, you're not a follower of Lord Chaitanya or not a devotee of Krishna.
Mm.
Krishna wants
Okay.
10,000 years. Lord Chaitanya wants 10,000 years. We've got 2 more minutes. And,
No, we don't.
oh, my clock says, okay, maybe we
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay, we're getting there. So we'll wind it up like this. And
So, excellent. So thank you, Prabhu, for joining, Rupa Manjari for reading the excellent letter, and Narayan Prabhu for his very simple and common sense explanations about things. A lot of people are appreciating your insights and your, your common sense explanation.
common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have common sense, then you can solve any problem.
Yes. So.
You know, the people that wrote the Declaration of Independence, there was one named Thomas Paine. He
Hmm.
wrote a book called Common Sense.
Hmm.
And guess
Excellent.
what was in the book? Common sense.
Reborn.
Hmm.
As
doesn't
well as Prabhu
explain
has
things.
emotional. Prabhu has
You're
EQ
going
also.
against monarchy, you're going against tradition, you're going against churches, you're going against this. He didn't go for that. He said common sense. And it
Prabhu,
prevailed.
this 21st century is for EQ also, emotional quotient. So you have that also, Prabhu. IQ plus EQ.
Oh, well. IQ simply means common sense.
Okay. So I'll end it here, Prabhu. Thank you very much for anyone who's watching online
Hare
on
Krishna.
Facebook.
Hare Krishna Rupa Manjari Prabhu.
Right.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
My big regret is that you didn't say more things. I felt there was sort of an emergency in the air, and that's why I took so much time. But let's hope next time we meet, there will not. What's the next meeting?
Tomorrow. We'll have tomorrow.
Okay.
Acha, again.
Let's hope there's no such big emergency tomorrow, and we can talk sanely about common sense.
Okay. Haribol. So anyone who's watching on Facebook and YouTube, please join us in the WhatsApp group or send
Yes.
us a message, send us a question, or you can call us.
Did anybody put in any comments or anything
No,
online?
no.
Okay. Hare Krishna.